cousin's girlfriend punctured all my tires and painted my brand new car because I refused to let her use it at her wedding, so I had her arrested on her big day. I am not very close to my father's family. We were always cold but respectful of each other, only seeing each other at weddings and other important events. In fact, there's a joke between us. Only weddings and funerals bring us together. This wedding was my cousin's, my father's brother's son. Ironically, he only met his fiancée once, at an aunt's funeral. Now, let's talk about the bride-to-be. Let's call her Alice. I couldn't say why this woman doesn't like me. I think it has something to do with my work. I am a graphic designer. I work from home, and for some reason, she can't take my job seriously. I remember when she laughed and asked, "What is your real job? Don't tell me you make money drawing on the computer." So yeah, she's not my favorite person. When I received the invitation to the wedding, 5 months after our first meeting, incredible things happened in my life. I got a very good contract with a publishing house. Finally, after years of saving, I was able to buy the car of my dreams, a Mercedes-Benz GLC. As a brief background on my family, we are not rich. We all have average salaries and can live comfortably, but not luxuriously. This car would be a luxury in their eyes. I knew it from the beginning. I hate answering questions about how I make money with cartoons, but I had no choice. My father's car was broken down, and they depended on me to drive them. The wedding was held at the groom's parents' home, a place where I also grew up. It was quite a journey, and the distance between the two places was long. In my country, you cannot formalize everything in one place. There's the city hall, then the church, then the homes of the parents and godparents. It's chaos and hours of driving. We quickly moved to the wedding location, like most of the family. My parents and I got there the day before, and many stayed in a nearby hotel. As I expected, the car created some fascination in the first few seconds. All my little cousins jumped with enthusiasm around it. It's quite large, I won't lie. I continued answering questions and even helped with the final preparations for the wedding. I was going to be a maid of honor, and I was quite excited. Alice was suspiciously kind to me all day long until night came. She came up to me and asked if we could talk about something important outside. I agreed, and she quickly brought up the subject. She immediately asked if they could use my car tomorrow. "It's beautiful and white. It will be perfect for a bride," she said. Without thinking too much, I agreed and told her I would be pleased to drive them wherever they needed. But she immediately frowned and shook her head. "No, you're not going to drive. John is driving." It was probably a bad reaction, but I laughed. She might not know much about my family, but I know very well that John doesn't have a driver's license. In fact, he tried 3 times and failed. I asked her if she was trying to get arrested on her wedding day. Ironically, that was not far from the truth. She ignored me and said that John literally knows how to drive, and that no one would stop a groom in traffic. Up until that point, I still thought she was joking. But she wasn't. I tried to reach an agreement, but I couldn't leave my car in the hands of someone without a driver's license, no matter the event. From that point to a major scandal, there was only one step. She screamed that I couldn't even do something so insignificant for my cousin, as if committing a crime was something minor. Then she began to cry about how she would be embarrassed in her parents' car, an old Ford, on this great day of her life. I even offered to leave the car at home, and my parents and I would squeeze into other family members' cars. Nothing worked. She didn't want to leave the car. She wanted to appear with it at the wedding. It all seemed so ridiculous to me that I went to sleep in my room. She threw a beer can at me, screaming that I was a selfish bee, and that I was no longer invited to the wedding. I was really looking forward to leaving. But John convinced me to stay and promised me that he would convince Alice to let me drive the car tomorrow. I let it go and went to bed. The day of the wedding, I woke up calmer, eager to find a compromise where we would all be happy. I had my coffee and walked out to the yard to check on my car and make sure it was clean. Cleanliness should have been my last concern. All 4 tires were punctured and the paint on the car looked like a drawing made by a 3-year-old. Not with colored pencils, but with a stone or something sharp. I couldn't even react. I just stared and wished I could wake up from a nightmare. I got into the car and checked the surveillance camera recordings. Although I knew who the mastermind behind this was, I didn't expect to see her herself in the act. The footage was so clear that I could even see the details of her poorly applied false eyelashes. She did it in the dark, probably thinking there were no cameras, but she must have forgotten, or didn't know, that there were also surveillance cameras in the car. I saw red. I don't remember ever being so angry. I no longer cared that she would be arrested on her wedding day. At that moment, I just wanted to teach that brat a lesson. I called an old friend, who happens to be a policeman now. I explained the situation and sent him the footage. He assured me that they had enough evidence to arrest her immediately for vandalism. I didn't hesitate much. Just as she was about to go to the hairdresser, my policeman friend showed up at her door an hour later. All that time, I was sitting in my car trying not to cry or scream, imagining how much the repairs would cost. I did her a favor by not showing up at her house because no makeup could have covered the marks I would have left on her. She was almost out of the house, continuously screaming, and as if that wasn't enough, when the policeman released her arm, she picked up a stone and threw it at my car. She was handcuffed and put in the police car. It was a huge drama. My friend took care of everything, and after 2 hours, her father bailed her out. She was not late for the wedding, but you could tell the gossip was running like wildfire, and the whole family was talking about it. I don't know how the wedding went. Not even my parents attended, but I heard that the bride had multiple fits of anger and shouted at the guests. The next day, her father contacted me, apologized, and after understanding the seriousness of the situation, offered to pay for the car repairs on the condition that I dropped the charges against Alice. I agreed, but let's just say the bill wasn't small for the poor father. Since then, she hasn't tried to contact me, and I learned that she cut off contact with all members of my family, considering most of them were on my side. Months passed, and life returned to normal, or as normal as it could be after such a dramatic event. I focused on my work, and thankfully, my car was restored to its former glory. Every time I drove it, I couldn't help but think about that day and how close I came to losing my cool. Alice, on the other hand, became a bit of a ghost. I heard through the grapevine that her marriage wasn't going so well. It seemed the incident at the wedding had created a rift between her and John, and the tension only grew as time went on. John's parents weren't thrilled about having a daughter-in-law with a criminal record, no matter how minor. Eventually, Alice and John moved to another city, trying to start fresh. But word travels fast in our family, and the story of the bride who couldn't control her temper became a bit of a cautionary tale, something our relatives whispered about at gatherings. As for me, I didn't lose any sleep over it. I kept my distance from that side of the family, not out of spite, but because I realized that some things are better left in the past. My relationship with my parents remained strong, and I focused on the positive things in my life, the work I loved, the freedom of being my own boss, and the simple pleasure of cruising around in my dream car. In the end, Alice taught me a valuable lesson: boundaries are important, and so is standing up for yourself. Sometimes doing the right thing means being the bad guy in someone else's story, and that's okay. I'll take peace of mind over people pleasing any day. And who knows, maybe one day, Alice will look back on that day and realize how ridiculous it all was. But until then, I'm content just moving forward, 1 mile at a time.